इकडेच बोलणार आहे.
Good morning to the esteemed judges, to all the respected faculties, our opponent team, and also everyone present here today. Happy Independence Day. Myself, Dr. Anjali Singh from MD Part 1 Pediatric Department. We are in the motion of for. So, I rise before to speak in favor of the motion that educational reforms are for the empowerment of the youth rather than challenging the democratic values of the country and its national security. This motion does not ask us to choose between education or democracy, or between the youth empowerment and national security. There are no competing objectives in this. In fact, these are contrary to the belief. They are motions that often needs to be discussed in consonance with each other. The real question that arises is, does meaningful educational reform primarily seek to empower young people with knowledge, skills, critical thinking, and opportunities, or should educational reform itself be treated as a threat to democratic values and national security? India's National Educational Policy 2020 itself places considerable emphasis on critical thinking, inquiry, discussion, analysis, multidisciplinary learning, vocational education, and 21st century skills. And the National Curriculum Framework for School Education explicitly incorporates values including liberty, equality, justice, diversity, inclusion, rational public dialogue, and constitutional needs. Alongside that scientific temperament and evidence based thinking, if educational reforms inherently were threat to democratic values, why do our own educational system explicitly place democratic values in the central core? Why does our textbooks have the preamble as a first page and Constitution of India? Comprehensive understanding of what lies at the core of the educational reforms should be reached before we question its nature. They aim to improve learning quality, expand access, and match the modern societal needs. Philosophically, however, educational reforms includes redefining the core purpose of schooling, shifting theories of knowledge, and reshaping the relationship between the individual and the society. Randall Curran, a professor of philosophy at the University of Pittsburgh, in his Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, gave a reference to Richard Teacher's The Leading Light in Philosophy of Education, that is, reforms. What does it mean to empower a youth? It means giving them the capacity to make informed decisions. It means giving them the skills that translates into economic independence. It means giving them the ability to adopt to the technology. And it means giving them intellectual tools to solve the problem rather than merely memorizing answers. In February 2026, World Bank reported that Indian youth constitutes approximately 72% of the unemployed in the world and identified persistent mismatch between what young people are trained for and what employers actually need. The same program noted that graduate placement rates on the ITI system were below 50% and that India needs to produce more. It is a signal that our system must continuously ask, are we preparing young people for the world they are actually entering in? Or if we are just producing laborers who are rote learning. If the labor market changes but education doesn't, if the technology changes but curriculum doesn't, if the industries demand analytical and digital skills but institutions continues relying on overwhelming rote learning, for all these inconsistency is what is demanded is the current job market, and what is being offered is something different. Ultimately, it is the student and the youth that pays the price. The possibility that a reform can be ideologically misused does not establish that reform itself is anti-democratic or threatens the national security. The relevant question is whether the reform is transparent, evidence-based, constitutionally compliant, and accountable. The NCF explicitly describes democratic values as including liberty, equality, justice, diversity, inclusion, and national public dialogue. If your objection is to particular reform, identify the provision and demonstrate how it violates our constitutional principle. You can't condemn the entire concept of educational reform by pointing to hypothetical misuse. I reject the assumption that youth empowerment is somewhere external to the security. Who develops our cybersecurity systems, who researches defensive technologies, who builds our semiconductors, who develops an AI, who conducts scientific researches, who drives economic productivity, or our youth. It is the educational reforms. In the RTE Act 2009, we have been into a curriculum where till standard 8 we cannot fail a student. So economically productivity is enhanced through this. It's the youth like you and me today, from a needle to building aircrafts, from slate to the blackboard to the educom. This is a reformatory journey. Now, imagine, would this have been possible without the educational reforms? If the youth are the human capital through which a nation produces its technological, economical, and scientific capabilities, exactly an empowering nation will require reforms. For example, massive open online courses have transformed access to education by allowing learners to study courses without being physically present at a university. Platforms such as Coursera, universities such as IGNOU, PM eVidya, Ekal Vidyalay, Swayam, Diksha, and universities more than this are providing education from home. Technological reforms such as Nishtha provides large-scale professional developmental courses for teachers, helping them strengthen pedagogical practices and adapt to changing educational requirements. The answer is evidence-based, inclusive, and careful evaluated reforms. A failed reform can be replaced. A poorly implemented reform can be improvised. An effective educational policy can be withdrawn if has some discrepancies. Because the education is not meant to be a museum for the past. It is meant to be a bridge to the future. The greatest danger to the education system is not the change, but the stagnation. When we refuse to reform, we risk producing generations who can memorize today's answer, but what will they do tomorrow? Hence, the real threat isn't the reform, it is the stagnation of the current policies. Thank you.
A very good morning, all of you
चंचल चल
present
चल
here.
चल हाँ माइक
क्या करना है?
माइक
A very good morning, all of you present here. I am myself Dr. Chanchal, and very well said, Dr. Anjali. Today, I am present here not against the reform, but against the implementation of the reforms, against the assumption that every reform is automatically considered as empowerment. Every progressive policy on paper doesn't mean progressive practice. So, when a reform is called as empowered, when it is said to be being empowered, I'll tell you. When the reforms are actually implemented in the practice, when the education is given with quality and quantity and distributed in equal amount, when the education is resulting into proper employment in the youth, when it is developing critical thinking in the youth, when it is developing freedom of speech to the youth, freedom of thinking to the youth, and when it is giving the power of youth to practice their profession with this great dignity and same dignity with other else. So, I want to ask: is there equality? Is the quantity distributing equally? Is there is employment? Is there is freedom? Is the critical thinking been developed in the youth? So I ask: does the democracy can be protected from the outdated system of education which are leading millions and millions of people unemployed and unprotected for the modern world? Can the cyber security be protected from the technological illiteracy, which is leading cyber crime and misleading information increasing day by day? Again, I am telling that problem is not in the reform, problem is in the implementation of the reforms. Implementation is the actual thing which is getting hampered. It's the actual point where it is developing differences between the democracy, between the political parties, or between the authority and the youth. It is not getting properly employed, and along with it, I am questioning implementation because it's like in medicine we say that medicine is refused when improper medicine is refused because improper dose of medicine can cause more harm to the person than proper dose. So improper implementation of reforms will act in the same way, will cause the same harm to the youth. It is the actual cause, it is the actual harm which is causing harm to the youth and harm to the democracy. So so what is actually needed to be done is proper accountability, proper recognition, proper implementation. It is needed to be done. And supporting supporting reform doesn't always mean that you will not think about the implementation. So if the government is introducing the reform, they should also look forward to the implementation, whether the reforms are reaching to the desired population, whether the effects are there, they are taking action, but the action are giving results or not, it is also should be considered by the government. So it also should be considered, and I think I have kept forward my point very clearly. So thank you.
हाँ.
Good morning and happy independence to all. Myself, Dr. Akram Attar from Medicine Department, MD Part 1. First, we must know what is the educational reform. Educational reform are the planned changes in education system to improve quality, accessibility, equity, and relevance and effectiveness of education according to need of society and time. It aims to prepare the student or youth for the better future. First, we know what development of education in India. Modern education in India developed during British colonial period. Before that, education was mainly provided through Gurukuls, Maktab, Madrasa, where students learn religion, grammar, philosophy, and logic. After British arrived in India, they introduced several reforms in education system. In 1781, Calcutta Madrasa was established to teach Persian and Arabic language. In 1791, Sanskrit College was established in Calcutta by Jonathan Duncan. In 1800, Lord Wellesley established Fort William College to train British servants. In 1813, the Charter Act was first official step introduced by British government in educational reform in India. In, in that Act, the government provided financial funding for development of education system. In that time, the two groups were established. First is Orientalist and second is Angelist. Orientalist wanted education in Indian language and in traditional Indian knowledge. Second, Angelist, they wanted Western education through English language. Finally, the Orientalist and Angelist controversy won by Angelist. In 1854, General Wood's dispatch is known as Magna Carta of English education in India. His major recommendations were promotion of higher education in English language and primary and secondary education in vernacular and Anglo-vernacular language. In 1903, British government passed the Government Resolution on Education Act, in which they passed resolution on education, but did not accept the primary education is compulsory was compulsory because they wanted to limit the education to Britishers and rich community peoples. In 1970, Sadler Commission recommended 12 years of school and education of 12 years of school education and 3 years of university degree course. When India gained independence in 1947, overall literacy rate was roughly 12%. After the independence, India introduced three major national education policy to improve the education according to needs of society and nation. The first national education policy introduced in 1968 under the leadership of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to provide the education for all, promote the science and mathematics education, providing funding for educational development from 6% of GDP. The second national education policy was introduced in 1986 under the leadership of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. This policy mainly focused women's education, education for disadvantaged group, also established the Navodaya Vidyalayas, and improving teacher training so that students could receive better learning. After the 34 years, third national education policy introduced in 2020 under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This policy based on 5 pillars: equity, accessibility, affordability, accountability, and quality. This policy brought several major reforms education system. It replaced tradition 10+2 schooling with new 5+3+3+4 structure. It promotes a fundamental learning and use of mother tongue as a medium in early education. It also introduced skill-based and vocational education from class 6 to develop skill and unemployment. It provides freedom to choose subject according to interest. Global competition has increased, so our education system must meet international standard. After the independence and third national policy implementation, literacy rate of India became 80 to 82%. Before I conclude, I would like to remember great reformer who laid the foundation of educational reform in India, Savitribai Phule, Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, which first female teacher and first established first girls school. Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj promoted first free and compulsory primary education for all and provided scholarship and hostel facility for all communities. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar believed that education is most powerful tool for the social change. He worked to ensure education for all, equal for all, he by constitutional values of equality and justice. His famous dialogue, thank you.
Micro. नहीं ना
So, a very good morning and a happy Independence Day to all. पक्ष अनेक काफी अच्छी तरीके से जो नई शिक्षा प्रणाली है उसकी उपलब्धिताएं अपने को गिनाई है, पर मेरा सवाल ये है क्या सारी उपलब्धिताएं जो नई शिक्षा नीति में लाई गई क्या उसका वास्तविकता में स्वीकार या अवकरण हो रहा है? नहीं मान रहे हैं। तो नई शिक्षा प्रणाली 2020 के अनुसार एक सुधार था कि डिजिटल शिक्षणीकरण हम करेंगे, ठीक है, मान्य है हमको करेंगे, पर क्या सच में हो रहा है? खुद एक सर्वे ही बताता है कि ग्रामीण विद्यालयों में सिर्फ 20% विद्यालय ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे इंटरनेट की सुविधा उपलब्ध है, और यही बात अगर हम शहरी विद्यालयों की करें तो सिर्फ 50% ऐसे स्कूल है जहाँ पे इंटरनेट की उपलब्धता है। अगर ये इतना ज्यादा फर्क है तो डिजिटलीकरण लाने का फायदा क्या, या उसका हो रहा है कोई उपयोग? नहीं। तो बात ये है कि मैं एक गांव को बिलोंग करती हूँ जहाँ पे एक स्कूल है, ठीक है, तो डिजिटलीकरण के नाम पे सिर्फ एक टीवी उन्होंने उपलब्ध करके दी है, तो 1 से 8वीं कक्षा के लिए सिर्फ एक टीवी, तो इसका क्या मतलब, क्या है ये? हो रहा है कुछ उसका उपयोग? तो आप नई चीजों को लाइए, लेकिन पहले खुद को मजबूत कीजिए, ठीक है, आपको आपकी नींव को मजबूत करना पड़ेगा। पहले सारी सुविधा उपलब्ध करके दीजिए, फिर नई चीजें लाइए। ऐसे नहीं कि मैं पेपर पे लिख के दे रही हूँ कि ये आएगा वो आएगा, लेकिन उसकी उपलब्धता ही नहीं है, तो लाने का क्या फायदा? अगर हर स्टूडेंट को, हर विद्यार्थी को उसका उपयोग नहीं हो रहा है, तो मैं नहीं मानती कि ये एक चैलेंज के अलावा, ये एक चुनौती के अलावा और कुछ है। और फिर एक बात और भी आती है कि ये ग्रामीण विद्यार्थी और शहरी विद्यार्थियों के बीच में एक बड़ा अंतर पैदा करती है। आप शहरी विद्यार्थियों के लिए ये सुविधा ठीक है ला भी सकते हैं, उस पे कार्य हो भी सकता है, लेकिन जो फर्क पैदा हो रहा है उस पे काम कैसे होगा? तो मेरा कहना ये है कि नई चीजें लाने से ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है कि जो उपलब्धता है, जो पहले से मजबूत है, उसको और मजबूत बनाइए, फिर बाद में नई लाइए। ठीक है? थैंक यू।
आपण माईक लावा. इथे बघ. माईक लावा, माईक लावा.
So, respected chairpersons, honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and my fellow participants. I, Dr. Janhvi Joshi, from MD Part 1 Senior Batch, Department of Pediatrics, rise firmly in favor of this motion. Apparently, we are told that educational reform is dangerous because students may learn to think, to question, to disagree. Well, how fragile must our democracy be if a student with a question can threaten it? Why do we need educational reforms? Your question. I would like to answer that. India has nearly 25 crore school students and over 4 crore students in higher education. This isn't merely an education system. That is India's future workplace, scientific community, and an electorate. Yet our traditional formula has always been memorize, right answer, get a degree, hope for job. Apparently, that was a grand strategy. But what Swami Vivekananda reminded us was education is manifestation of the perfection which already exists in a man. So education should unlock the potential, not manufacture the answer sheets. The degree employment paradox. Approximately 34% of the undergraduates are in arts, 15% in science, 13% in commerce, and 12% in engineering and technology. Yet educated unemployment was around 6.5% in 2025, with youth unemployment around 9.9% in the figures that we have discussed. So what is the solution? You think it is getting more degrees? So I would like to counter, because apparently if one degree doesn't get you a job, 3 will intimidate the employer into hiring you. No, we need degree, skill, experience, and opportunity. It is not about what education you are getting. It is about how you are implementing. As Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, by education I mean all-round drawing out of the best in the child and man in body, mind, and spirit. That means education must develop competence, character, capability, and not just marks. NEP 2020, as quoted by one of my team member, it attempts to change what did you memorize into what can you actually do, like what can you actually apply. And as John Dewey said, education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. So why are we still preparing students for primarily 3-hour exam? Education and democracy. The opposition says educational reforms threatens democracy. But what does democracy require? Questioning, evidence, debate, dissent, independent thoughts. Rabindranath Tagore envisioned where the mind is without fear, the head is held high. So if the student asks, why did my examination paper leak? We call that a threat. Perhaps that problem isn't in the student's question. Let's talk about Jantar Mantar and Chhatron ki Goonj. Students' mobilization at Jantar Mantar has brought examination integrity, transparency, recruitment, and accountability into public debate. And Chhatron ki Goonj, associated with Rahul Gandhi, has highlighted concerns about paper leaks, unemployment, recruitment, and educational cost. Yes, political claims should absolutely be scrutinized, but dismissing every student's grievance as merely political is basically convenience. Students are organizing, questioning, protesting, demanding accountability. And we say, oh no, the youth are becoming politically aware. No, that is the democracy that is being exercised. As Nelson Mandela famously said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So perhaps we shouldn't be surprised when an educated youth actually use their voice to demand a change. Education and national security. Let us update our definition of national security. In 2026, national security isn't only borders, armies, and missiles. It is also AI, cyber security, semiconductors, biotechnology, data, research, human capital. Who will build these capabilities? It is our students who will combat the misinformation, deepfakes, cyber threats, digitally liberate citizens. Digital and vocational education. Initiatives such as Diksha and PM E-Vidya are expanding digital learning. Yes, digital divide exists, I agree. But saying some people don't have electricity, therefore abolish the electricity, would be absurd. Fix the digital divide, don't abandon the digital education. And vocational education must stop being treated as what happens when academics don't work. A skilled technician, programmer, paramedic, artisans isn't less valuable because their knowledge is practical. Because empowerment is knowledge and skill. So, I would like to say, don't fear the educated youth, fear the system that leaves them. Educated but unemployed, qualified but unheard, connected but misinformed, and ambitious but without opportunity. Let them question textbooks, examinations, policies, institutions. Let them question us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Gauri. I'm from Medicine Department. Hello. I think we are just talking and talking. There is no implementation. I don't think whatever the reforms are formed, they are only formed, and they are not considering the rural population at all. They are just considering, I think they are just considering the urban cities where there is a facility of digitalization. There is digitalization in urban area mostly, but some in rural areas there are areas where books are not reached. How can we say that their digitalization will occur? So there are reforms, so many reforms, but they are not thinking of the everyone in the country. They are not equalizing everyone. It is not reached to each candidate of the or each citizen of the country equally. That's what the point is. There are so many reforms which are formed, but they are just formed on the paper. They are not reached to the rural area. They are not reached to each and every person of the country. That's our concern. We are not against the reform. We are against the implementation. The action is only taken, but the results, we are not getting the results. That's my point is. And about the cyber security, we are saying that APAR ID, we have that APAR ID, we are uploading each and every document, everything on that APAR ID thing. And there is a question of cyber security. Can we say that this data is not leaked or it will not be misused in any kind? I don't think so. So I think the problem is in implementation, not in the reforms. And while making the reforms, we should think of each and every member of the country. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Myself, Dr. Manasi Jadhav from Materia Medica Department, MD Part 1 resident. So, as rightly said, with all my team members and also looking respectfully towards the opposition members, I would like to say that education has always been a central part of the social technology. And it has also been merely not about the knowledge transmission, but also a powerful instrument of social mobility, nation building, and economic development. What is the purpose of this educational reform? Whether is it a threat? No. It is to develop the country. It is to empower young people with the knowledge, skills, confidence, and critical thinking required to participate in future. Educational reform, when responsibly designed, implemented, is not a threat to the democracy or a national security. It means it is a strengthening the both. And we do not have to look very far to understand this. We can also see that India's educational journey itself is a story of reform. From national policy of education, which was implemented in 1968, which was mainly based on three-language formula, universal access, and compulsory education, to 1986 policy, which placed a greater emphasis on equality, accessibility, vocational education, and general equality. In 1992, let me tell you that the program of action further emphasized on the universal elementary education access for the disadvantaged people. Why these reforms happen? Why? Because the need of the society. As the society develops, the reforms has to be keeping on developing. We cannot just stuck on the past. We have to develop. Otherwise, we will be stuck in that same older education system. As the future advances, we as a society, we have also to generate and we have to develop it. Okay? So education must not be respond to the society, not remain in the track of the society of the past. Then comes the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Why it is? Which focuses on the universal elementary education. The Rashtriya Madhyamikta Shiksha Abhiyan expanded the focus, let me tell you all, towards the secondary education, improving the access, retention, and quality. Third, the Right to Education Act, which came in 2009, which made the education compulsory till 6 to 14 years of age. Also, one of the greatest reform, the midday meal reform. As we all know, the midday meal reform helped that, to understand that the basic nutrition which was not fulfilled to the poorly educated people or the areas which have not yet developed. So as the midday meal reform has came, it not only just tells that the education is in the textbooks or in the classrooms, but also the nutrition which the child has to be provided, which he will be able to, it will enhance his learning. It is all about the access, equality, nutrition. Then comes the skill area. Here comes the true questions about the power empowerment. So, what does you mean by empowering the young person? It means giving them the ability to become economically and financially stable. When each and every person in this classroom is empowered, we'll be able to help the future coming. Education is the bridge to the future, and educational reform is the how we build that bridge. Okay. So, if we truly believe in the democracy, let us educate the young people who can question without hatred, who can disagree without intolerance, and participate without fear. If we truly believe in the national security, let us empower the generation that will build our science, technology, and cybersecurity, economy, and innovation. If we truly believe in the social justice, let us ensure that the education reaches the child which is poor, rural, and disadvantaged, and differently abled. And if we truly believe in India's future, let us have the courage to improve the systems that are no longer serve that future. It is what we have to improve is the system and not the educational reforms. Educational reforms are in the support of the education because we are heading towards it. Thank you.
It is always better done than said. The proof of the pudding is actually in eating it. And what we are hearing till now is only the recipe of the pudding. Isn't it? As my opponent rightly said, we must ensure. Yes, we must ensure. We must. As my colleague rightly put forth, the great national curriculum framework, the national curriculum framework made to the headlines. Why? Because the Tamil Nadu government and Karnataka government backed out from the curriculum reforms because of the multilingualistic opportunities not given to them. They lose their autonomy on the educational reforms and hence they backed out from it. So is the reform implemented? No. It is always on the papers. It is not implemented if it is only on the paper and the last student in the queue is not benefited from it. Why? When Dr. Janhvi says that questioning democracy is not successful when we are allowed to protest, it is successful when we are given the justice. It is not questioning only, if you understand. You must understand also the Indian pedagogy system that is inculcated. Is it really? We are taking ideologies from the Finnish philosophy of the conventional, play-based conventional learning. We are taking ideologies from Japanese education system. We are taking ideologies from the German education system. Why are they successful? Why are they successful? Because each and every student is on the same start line. What we are doing is centralizing the educational reforms when the students are coming after the loads of practice. Then we see now we'll give a centralized NEET. You can't draw a finish line when there are unequal starts. You can't. You must know it is not just the bureaucracy. You must know it is not just the politics. You must know it is not just the society. It is the future of 250 million students that is on the stake. It is the future of India. That is what we are seeing. If this reform is inculcating in me the idea of injustice, if a person sitting right next to me is getting opportunity and I am not getting opportunity, how will I work for my country? And you say you should not go against the reforms? And you should only blame the government? It is the government that is making the reforms. And we all are the products of these reforms. Each and every one of us at some point of time have went through this havoc that yes, I am not equal to the person next to me. If the nation actually wants to bring this on an equal plane, they must start from the start. A person in the first standard, may it be in Gujarat, may it be in Bihar, may it be in Karnataka, should get the same syllabus, the same curriculum available in his understandable language also, and not imposed or pressurized to study in a particular language. Then if you are actually making reforms, what is NEP 20? It is just a modified version of 1975 reform. What is it? And you are saying we are bringing new reforms. Bullshit. It is just a modified version of the 1975 old reform version with digitalization, modelization added to it. Yes, government does give the opportunity of Swayam, mock
and it is actually doing effort to make the India digitalized so that each and every child is exposed to the modernization, to the AI tools, to the new system of education. But what about the child sitting in a rural area, feeling barely fed in his stomach? Will he think about AI? Is AI really used for him? When you say a reform is, and then you say the reform in the question is not to be blamed for his education. If a reform is inculcating in me the idea of injustice, the idea that I'm not able to question my career choices, is there no threat to democracy in this? What are we cultivating? We are cultivating future of India, right? When you say the reforms are for questioning, who are questioning? The privileged ones. And what about the underprivileged? The gap is increasing. And I am not against the educational reforms. I am against the reforms that are inculcating exactly this idea in the youth. That is the why we are facing this constant protest. That is why we are facing this constant approaches to the government, knocking on the door of the government for the future of India, because it is inculcating exactly this idea. So I end my point on this. Thank you, and a happy Independence Day.
A huge round of applause for all the 8 participants. You all had a courage to stand before an audience, put your thoughts forward, and defend your perspective. And that itself is an achievement worthy of appreciation.
Thank you, participants. Our respected judges will now take some time to deliberate and finalize the results. Meanwhile, I request everyone to kindly remain seated and enjoy the proceedings. Debate is not only about speaking, it is equally about listening and reflecting. Therefore, I would now like to invite members from the audience to briefly share their views regarding today's debate. Anyone from audience interested to come forward and share their views?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Independence Day. As we are talking about democracy, we have seen like raising our voice against also. It's a part of democracy. So, so I'm not like against or with the reforms, but when we see, जब हम देखते हैं कि एक भारत या एक हिंदुस्तान 3 तबकों में बटा हुआ है, आई थिंक 4 तबकों में बटा हुआ है. गांव है तो गांव भी 2 तबकों में है, एक रिच गांव है और एक पुअर गांव है. और अगर शहर है तो उसमें भी एक मिडिल क्लास आदमी रहता है और एक अमीर आदमी रहता है. तो जब मैं मेरे गांव की बात करूं तो जैसे जानवी ने बोला कि मुझे लगता है उसने गांव देखा ही नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरे गांव में अभी ऐसी कंडीशन है कि स्कूल बंद होने को आया है क्योंकि बच्चे नहीं है. क्यों? कि प्राइवेट स्कूल में जा रहे सब लोग, और जो गरीब लोग हैं उसको दूसरे गांव में जाना पड़ेगा क्योंकि बच्चे ही नहीं है तो टीचर नहीं आएगा. अभी मतलब 1 से 8 तक स्कूल है पर 2 टीचर है वहां पे, तो अभी वो पढ़ाएंगे कैसे? और वो जो लाइक थ्रेटनिंग तो हम डेमोक्रेसी की बात कर रहे हैं, पर वहाँ पे स्कूल ही नहीं। अभी लास्ट 10 से 15 साल में कम से कम 1 लाख स्कूल बंद हो गए हैं। तो अभी स्कूल ही नहीं रहेगा तो बच्चा पढ़ेगा कैसे? अभी मेरे गांव की बात करूं तो लाइक डिजिटलाइजेशन और ये जो सब आ गया है, तो वी आर लाइक प्रिविलेज टू हैव दैट। हम इवन फार्मर्स अभी वो भी इतने डिजिटलाइज हो गए हैं कि लाइक कैसे फार्मिंग करना है, हर सीजन में क्या क्या उगाना है। लाइक ड्रैगन फ्रूट्स हमारे गांव में उगते हैं। तो इतने रिफॉर्म, पर एक गांव ऐसा भी है कि जहाँ पे वो बच्चे को लाइक उसके माँ बाप को सोचना पड़ रहा है कि मेरे 3 बच्चे हैं या 2 बच्चे हैं, तो मैं पढ़ाऊंगा कैसे, खाना पीना नहीं मिल रहा है। तो लाइक रिफॉर्म्स की बात जब हम कर रहे हैं और डेमोक्रेसी की भी बात करते हैं, तो अभी जो रिसेंट करिकुलम आया है सीबीएसई का, उसमें से डेमोक्रेसी हटा दिया है, चैप्टर ही नहीं है। तो अभी मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है हम लास्ट जनरेशन ऐसी है कि जिसको पता है कि डेमोक्रेसी क्या है, और हम बताएंगे कि लाइक हम आवाज भी उठा सकेंगे कि डेमोक्रेसी। बट मोस्ट ऑफ द अभी सीबीएसई के करिकुलम में डेमोक्रेसी नहीं है। मॉडर्न पीरियोडिक टेबल का जो है वो हटा दिया है, एंड लाइक सिविक्स के चैप्टर में 10th स्टैंडर्ड के, फिर चैलेंजेस टू डेमोक्रेसी, लाइक ऐसे चैप्टर्स जो है जो थे, जो बच्चों को पढ़ने चाहिए, उनको पता होना चाहिए कि क्या क्या चैलेंजेस आते हैं डेमोक्रेसी में, वही अभी नहीं रहे। तो लाइक विच रिफॉर्म्स टुवर्ड्स वी आर गोइंग, ये सब दिक्कतें आ रही है। तो लाइक हमको दोनों साइड सोचना पड़ेगा कि जो एक गांव है, गांव के तबक्के, डॉक्टर प्रियंका ने जो बोला बहुत अच्छी बात थी कि हमको वो उस हिसाब से सोचना पड़ेगा कि जो लास्ट बच्चा है उस तक वो रिफॉर्म्स पहुंच रहा है कि नहीं पहुंच रहा है। सिर्फ हम जुमले ही दे रहे हैं, बातें ही कर रहे हैं क्या, वो वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए। थैंक यू।
Anyone else?
हेलो, और कोई? जल्दी आइए।
Dr. Pawan, please come ahead.
जोरदार टाळ्या झाल्या पाहिजे डॉक्टर पवनसाठी. वाऱ्याच्या वेगाने ते येणार आहेत.
गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल. गुड मॉर्निंग. हैप्पी इंडिपेंडेंस डे. जो अभी डिबेट कंपटीशन हुआ था वो काफी रोमांचक था. हमें सिर्फ ये नहीं देखना है कि मतलब वो सिर्फ एक इंटरटेनमेंट जैसा अपने को नहीं देखना है इस चीज को. हमें इसको एक मतलब क्या हम अडॉप्ट कर सकते हैं, इसमें क्या हम चेंज ला सकते हैं. सिर्फ एक जंतर मंतर में जो हुआ वो सिर्फ एक मुद्दा नहीं था, वो सिर्फ एक इंसिडेंट नहीं था जो अभी हम हो गया अभी हम भूल जाएंगे, या फिर ठीक है ना अपने साथ तो हुआ नहीं है तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है इतना. वो इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है. क्या करना था और हमने क्या किया है वो ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. कि अभी रिफॉर्म आएंगे तो उसकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी होंगी क्या. जैसे प्रधान ने रेजिग्नेशन दिया, क्या वो देना जरूरी था, क्या वो नहीं देना जरूरी था, क्या करना था, उसके बाद क्या इंप्लीमेंटेशन आएंगे वो ज्यादा जरूरी है. सोचने वाली बात वो है. हम सिर्फ यहाँ डिबेट करते रह जाएंगे और देश में कुछ चेंज आएगा क्या, वो ज्यादा सोचना जरूरी है अपने लिए. हम यूथ को क्या दिखा रहे हैं, हम क्या देख रहे हैं, हम किस डायरेक्शन में जा रहे हैं, ये सोचना ज्यादा जरूरी है. जैसे जानवी ने क्लियरली बोला है कि हाँ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को अगर हम बायस मतलब इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को क्रिटिसाइज करने से हम थोड़ी ना इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूज करना बंद करने वाले हैं. जैसे रिफॉर्म्स नए रिफॉर्म्स को हम क्रिटिसाइज करने से थोड़ी ना हम नए रिफॉर्म्स में क्रिटिसाइज करके ही सिर्फ आगे थोड़ी ना बढ़ सकते हैं. हमें उसको लाना पड़ेगा. तुकाराम मुंडे जैसे या फिर बाकी लोग भी है जो सिस्टम में अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, हमें उनको इंकरेज करना चाहिए. हमें उनको जो सही में अच्छा काम करते हैं हमें उनको लाना चाहिए. और हमें उनको ये मतलब हौसला देना चाहिए कि सही में इन रिफॉर्म्स में भी ऐसा कुछ चेंज लाए, वो ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है। और जैसे डॉक्टर प्रियंका, उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा कहा कि ये सब बातें सिर्फ पेपर पे होती है, क्या फायदा। अरे फायदा नहीं है तो क्या हम बोलना बंद कर दे क्या? तो हर चीज फायदा या नुकसान के लिए नहीं होती, हमें जहां गलत है वहां आवाज उठाना भी उतना ही जरूरी है। और ये आजकल की पीढ़ी को समझना ज्यादा जरूरी है। सिर्फ जंतर मंतर से बैठने पे काम नहीं चलेगा, खुद पॉलिटिक्स में आना पड़ेगा, खुद इलेक्शंस में करना पड़ेगा।
पवन सावंतचा विजय आहे. आणि कोणी फॅकल्टी मधून कोणी?
डॉक्टर देवांगिनी मॅम बोलते.
डॉक्टर रुचिर आइए.
डॉक्टर देवांगिनी मॅम पण बोलतात. मॅम
गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन. गुड मॉर्निंग. वैसे तो जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट्स थे बहुत अच्छे से बोले, एंड चेंज इज इनएविटेबल. चेंज तो आने ही वाला है, और जैसे चेंज आएगा उस हिसाब से हमें चेंजेस को अडेप्ट भी करना है. बट क्या वो चेंजेस सारे अडेप्ट करने की जरूरत है कि नहीं है? जैसे कि हाँ, कितने लोगों को पता है चाइना में एंड न्यूजीलैंड में दे आर कमिंग बैक टू पेपर एंड पेन एंड दे आर रिमूविंग द टेक्नोलॉजी फ्रॉम द एजुकेशन. यस, तो उन लोगों ने भी रिफॉर्म लाया ना, उन लोगों ने भी टेक्नोलॉजी लाई, टेक्नोलॉजी के प्रोज एंड कॉन्स देखे, और वहां से वो चेंज होके वापस से दे केम बैक टू पेपर एंड पेन बिकॉज दैट वाज द ओरिजिनल एजिस से किया हुआ काम, जिसने आर्यभट्टा भी हमको दिया है, जिसने एल्बर्ट आइंस्टाइन भी हमको दिया है, जिसने स्टीफन हॉकिंग भी दिया है, जिसने एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम भी दिया है, जो पेपर पेन और गुरु शिष्य परंपरा से आगे बढ़ के आए हैं. एआई किसने जनरेट किया है? वही इंसान ने जनरेट किया है जो गुरु शिष्य परंपरा से आगे बढ़ा है. तो एजुकेशनल रिफॉर्म्स जो हमें लाने हैं वो डेफिनेटली, कि जैसे कि बोला कि सबकी स्टार्ट लाइन एक नहीं होती. बट मैडम, क्या आपने रिले रेस देखी है? रिले रेस में स्टार्ट लाइंस डिफरेंट डिफरेंट होती है, एंड दे एंड आल्सो एट डिफरेंट पॉइंट. द टाइम इज कंसिडर्ड. So definitely changes are needed, but which change to be accepted is what we need to understand, and that is what today's topic I was considering as, that reform must be done in a manner जो youth को empowerment करे, ना कि youth को रोक के रखे. अजी आज के दिन में मेरे मम्मी को फोन में कुछ भी इश्यू आता है ना, तो वो मेरे को फोन करती है कि बेटा ये नहीं हो रहा है, तेरे को आता है तो देख. कल सवेरे जब हमारे सबके भी मतलब रेसिडेंट्स बड़े होंगे, शादी होंगे, उनके बच्चे आएंगे, वो ऑलरेडी वो लेवल से एक स्मार्टनेस आएगा उनका, तो उनको वो स्मार्टनेस के साथ जो बेस था वो बेस मिलना जरूरी है. वरना जैसे बहुत टाइम ऐसा ओवर में होता है कि बेस ही नहीं पता है हम लोगों को, हम सब फाइनल पॉइंट पे आ जाते हैं बट बेस हमें नहीं पता है. बेस क्यों नहीं पता है? और बेस का आंसर हम कहां से ढूंढते हैं? एआई से. बट क्या वही चीज एआई को फीड किसने की है? किसी ने हैरिसन बुक को अपलोड किया है, किसी ने हैरिसन लिखी है, किसी ने नेल्सन लिखी है, किसी ने कैप्लान लिखी है, किसी ने मटीरिया मेडिका सारे लिखे हैं. तो वो भी जरूरी है, चेंज भी जरूरी है, कितना चेंज चाहिए वो भी जरूरी है. आई वोंट गो इनटू एनी पॉलिटिकल डिबेट्स, आई वोंट गो इनटू एनी फर्दर डिबेट्स, वो तो होते रहेंगे पवन के साथ. बट आवाज उठाना जरूरी है, लेकिन आवाज उठाने पे कौन सी चीज के लिए हम आवाज उठा रहे हैं वो भी जरूरी है. एक चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम दूसरी 10 चीजों को ब्लेम करें वो जरूरी नहीं है. जो चेंज हमें चाहिए वो चेंज के लिए खड़े रहो, दैट इज फाइन, बट वो चेंज के साथ हमारे बहुत सारे अल्टरनेटिव मोटिव्स भी हम लेके आ जाते हैं, दैट इज कंप्लीटली रॉन्ग। तो एजुकेशन सबको मिलना चाहिए और एजुकेशन की हक सब लोग है, सबको मिलेगा एजुकेशन। अगर ये कोई रिफॉर्म आ रहा है तो उसके लिए हम सब साथ में खड़े हैं, बट अगर ऐसा कोई रिफॉर्म आ रहा है कि एजुकेशन प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में एजुकेशन सिर्फ क्रीम क्लास पीपल को ही मिल रहा है, तो उसके अगेंस्ट में भी हम सबको खड़ा रहना है। अमेरिका का एक बहुत ही अच्छा कंसेप्ट है कि टिल 10th और 12th ऑल द स्कूल्स आर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स, उसके बाद दे गोइंग टू प्राइवेट स्कूल्स। तो ये रिफॉर्म क्यों हम सोचते नहीं है? हम सब लोग सोचते हैं कौन से रिफॉर्म लाने हैं, क्या लाना चाहिए, बट क्या वो सही है? तो बस इतना ही था। आई होप मैंने बोला कुछ।
Ruchi, you don't want to do debate, but I have a point for you. Okay. Absolutely correct. It has to be reformed, and Aryabhat and all have been created as a part of the India. You know what happens? Please do not record because it is the off date. It should not go viral. I was traveling in a train, and the two students.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Priyanka said that there has to be equal start. So I'd like to share something very personal on this. There has to be an equal start, but that does not mean the race should not begin. If the race had never begun, we would not be celebrating Independence Day here today. We would still be slaves to the Britishers, and we would not have those things that we have today. If reforms are not important, my brother would never be able to study. He has learning disability, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. So when I was in my first year BHMS, I understood that there is a very big reform which has occurred in their academics, which was not there earlier, is that they get the freedom to learn subjects like cooking, bakery. They are giving equal marks as compared to other students who get marks in maths, science when they are not able to study. They get the freedom to choose one subject that they are comfortable with, whichever is their language, and drop the other subject. These are equal lines, Priyanka. These are equal lines which are still there. If those lines are not there, they would not be still in the place that they are. So today he is also going with other students. He is getting equal marks. If 80% for a child with learning disability is equal to 80% to a child who is having normal IQ and is able to study, this is a reform itself. So we are still in the process. Let's not look back and say that कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, बहुत कुछ हो रहा है. आगे क्या कर सकते हैं उसमें we can work on that. Okay. Also, the other team has only, I think Priyanka has understood the concept of national security. Nobody from the other team has come up with that, and only she has said about it. So, and इसने पवन ने भी बोला है कि जंतर मंतर पे जो हुआ तो that is. So we can always ask questions. There is nobody who can tell us that don't ask questions. But that protest, how many of the students have got injured in that? How much violent it had gone, that tear gases were thrown at them. They were at the verge of dying. Some people were on ventilators. This is the question to national security itself. So democracy, politics, reform and national security are not separate. They go hand in hand. Everything to be discussed, not just kya nahi ho raha hai, what is happening and what is not happening. So that I would like to bring to the point. And midday meal का किसी ने बोला था कि midday meal is a reform. Also speaking on that, midday meal is a reform. My school was private aided. वहाँ पे midday meals आते थे, लेकिन किसी दिन खाने के बदले वहाँ पे सिर्फ wafers आते थे. सो पेपर पे रिफॉर्म है लेकिन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं हो रहा है। मिड डे मील्स के बेसिस पे अगर सिर्फ वेफर्स आएंगे तो हम क्या खाएंगे? किसी दिन खिचड़ी आती थी, किसी दिन से वेफर आते थे 10 रुपए का बालाजी का पैकेट, एंड वी यूज्ड टू ईट दैट एंड गो होम। Means we were able to afford, so we used to get food, but there were people who were not able to afford. So it is both sided, but I think change is inevitable, like you said, and change should happen always. Otherwise, psychosis में रह के कोई फायदा नहीं. Better to be in sober state.
Thank you, Dr. Devangini ma'am, Dr. Pawan, Dr. Abbas, Dr. Ruchindra, and Dr. Safa for sharing your views.
And now, the wait is finally over. But before announcing the result, may I request our respected judges to kindly share their views and then share the results.
Advocate Prerna Sharma ma'am.
Hi, good morning everyone. Excuse me for my voice, I'm down with a viral sore throat. Firstly, I believe we should all have a round of applause for all those who participated. I believe when we gather before a forum of 10 people, of 20 people, or maybe for a small crowd of 5 people, it's not an easy task to talk what makes sense to them. Firstly, I am not just a practicing advocate, but I'm also a teacher, so I know if all those who are teachers here would know that it is such a big task कि एक बड़े से complicated concept को student चाहे किसी भी उम्र का हो उसके दिमाग तक पहुंचाना कितना कठिन होता है. And that's the same challenge for a doctor when it comes to making his patients understand. Am I right? Would you agree? So firstly, I appreciate that the topic may be complicated or easy. That's a different thing totally. But putting your points forth, trying to cover every aspect, every angle, and then trying to convey what you're trying to research on is one achievable task, which I believe everyone has been able to achieve, right? And secondly, मुझे तो थोड़ा सा ताजुब इसलिए भी हो रहा है कि डॉक्टर्स भी बोलने में इतने धुरंधर है, तो भैया वकीलों को क्या करना पड़ेगा फिर? अब स्ट्रगल बड़ी अलग किस्म की हो रही है. हाँ, सफेद और काले कोट में जरा ज्यादा ही जोरदार टक्कर हो रहा है. तो अभी तक तो वकीलों को पढ़ाते पढ़ाते उन्हें सिखा रहे थे कि डिबेट कैसे करना है. वाकई दुबे सर से पूछिए, मैं तो उनको आकर पूछ रही थी, सर आप क्यों डिबेट कर रहे हैं? आपको डिबेट करने की कौन सी जरूरत आ पड़ी? तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं मैम ऐसा ऐसा है, इस रीजन से हम लोग कर रहे हैं. लेकिन अब यहाँ की मुझे डर लग रहा है वकालत करते करते अभी डॉक्टर्स भी इतने धुरंधर हो गए हैं. सो आई एम गोइंग टू गेट बैक टू माय स्टूडेंट्स एंड टेल देम कि लुक, द डॉक्टर्स वर head ground into their books, are arguing so fantabulously. I wish I get a small clip. I'll go and show my students. Yeah. And Priyanka madam, where are you? Wow, I'm amazed. Yeah. For that matter, let me tell you, it's not just about Priyanka. There were 2-3 people. Even there's another girl called Janhvi. Yes, Anjali. So Manasi. Sorry, I'm not naming the male ones. Sorry for that. Please don't feel bad. Okay, so actually औरतों को बोलने की जरा ज्यादा जरूरत है अभी, मुझे ऐसा लगता है, and हम बोल रहे हैं. Let me tell you, at Gandhinagar Law College, we are a team with around 18 women handling the entire law college. So yes, women आप progressing है, ऐसी औरतें होंगी तो फिर तो देश का भविष्य उज्जवल है ही है. Okay, jokes apart, coming to your debate part, what I believe is, yes, of course, we've discussed the topic enough and I don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of the topic, but there's one thing I would say. We're all talking about freedom on 15th of August, right? And my conclusion for this topic is, when we know that we have a right to question, we have a right to ask, we have a right to claim, we also have the freedom which is backed by responsibility. So when We ask, how did you do it? Why did you do it? When did you do it? We must know where, when, and how much to ask for. Just because we have the liberty, we do not misuse this. This comes from a person studying law. I say studying law because if you genuinely understand, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a lawyer, both the professionals are students for life, right? Every time, every new phase brings in new challenges. So as a student of law or as a student of life, I always believe that we must be responsible enough when we talk about gaining freedom, when we talk about trying to understand that, oh, this is my right. Yes, it is your right. But in what circumstance? Are you doing the correct thing? Do you deserve to receive that? Right? There must be a lot of challenges that as doctors and lawyers we must be facing, or as professionals in the society we must be facing. But definitely one very important thing is what to say, how to say, when to say, and how much to say. Right? Okay, I won't bore you much, and I'll request my co-judge to kindly come over and take the charge, and then we'll have the results. I hope you'll have a good year ahead and learn a lot more throughout life and remain a student for life.
Thank you, ma'am. It's my privilege to evaluate doctors because by profession I'm a pharmacist actually. Being a hardcore pharmacologist, I always used to give a reference of doctors. You know, doctors will prescribe this and that, and again case studies to the students. And I'm today in front of all speaking and evaluating you doctors only. So it's my privilege. First of all, I must congratulate the organizers to select this topic. It's a very relevant topic, and currently it is required to do debates on such relevant topics. So I congratulate all the organizers from the cultural team who have selected these topics, and it's really coming back to the debate. What I observed is such a beautiful debate. All participants put their views in front of all of us, and that actually was very relevant. Some of the topics are very relevant, like one girl said, like in rural area the infra is not much available, but still on paper it is shown like everything is provided to the students. But actually if you visit such kind of places, there is nothing, only the documentation is there. So I'm not taking much time. Directly I'm announcing the result only on behalf of all our judges. So first I will see, first of all, whichever team is winning, proposing team or opposing team, we are not supporting the views of the, we are neutral. So we are neutral. Like, for example, if proposing team is winning, then we judges are supporting that view, or opposing. It's not like that. We are having an rubrics for evaluation, and we followed those rubrics. I can read the rubrics also. So we have, as per the rubrics provided, we have evaluated the team, and we are not supporting the views of the team. So first I will announce the best speaker from the team. Okay, there will be one speaker who is a best speaker and who has scored more than all others. And I would like to call Dr. Priyanka. Shall I announce him? And the winning team, hello, winning team is opposing team. I call all the members from opposing team to come forward and receive the prize.
I request the guide to please join the team. This wouldn't have been possible without the guides guiding their teams. Dr. Avni for the opposing team. A small token from the cultural committee for the guide. I call Dr. Namrata madam. Please, she guided the proposing team as well.
Both of them I call upon the proposing team for a photo with the judges and for your certificates.
सचिन सर को बोलने बोलते हैं हाँ प्रिंसिपल सर congratulate all the winners and the participants.
Thank you very much. Fantastic.
अभी पहले मनोज सर को बुलाना है किसको पहले मनोज सर को बुलाना है आई कॉल डायरेक्ट बोल आई कॉल मनोज सर मनोज पटेल सर टू शेयर देयर व्यूज
चल चल Now I request Dr. Manoj Patel sir to share his views.
Thank you very much to all judges. Madam, आपका speech was superb. And lot of things we have to learn from you also. Already good afternoon. Good noon, right? Yeah. We have a limited time, but very important thing since morning I have observed. Prashant sir and I have shared. Madam beautifully said that independence, freedom with responsibility. And there was some pain in heart. We talk a lot. We start with us. And when flag hosting is happening, लोग नहीं दिखते जितने कैंपस में है. Students specifically. Is literally a painful thing. And this is full freedom given. We are not compelling people to come. But अंदर से कुछ हो रहा है कि देश ने कुछ हासिल किया है, तो यहाँ आके खड़ा रहना चाहिए. साल में 2 दिन ऐसे है कि जिसमें कोई चॉइस नहीं. तो दूर से लोग आ सकते हैं, लेकिन वॉकिंग करके यहाँ टाइम पे भी नहीं पहुंचते. एंड वी हैव टू वर्क ऑन दैट. आर यू ओके विद दैट? जरा आवाज भी 3 लोगों का है. So yes, freedom comes with lot of responsibility. Reform will not come without you. Okay? Second thing very important, कभी पता चला टॉपिक का? कितने दिन पहले? आपको समझ में कभी आया? डिबेटिंग टीम में से कभी समझ में आया आपको? 1 वीक पहले से. 13 days. 2 weeks. 2 weeks से समझ में आया. First of all, hats off to people who enrolled. But I was very happy, madam, you missed. आपके जाने के बाद यहाँ 4 लोगों ने आके कुछ कहा. And very, very vital sharing. Okay? और वो 4 जन ने नाम नहीं लिखवाया. क्यों? ये हम बात करते हैं चेंजेस की, यहाँ से हम लोग कदम उठा के आगे नहीं जाएंगे तो कौन सा चेंजेस, कौन सा रिफॉर्म कौन लाने वाला है? We are waiting for whom? We expect someone else to bring reform in our life, or we will bring reform within us first? ये सवाल जरा मैं अपने अंदर डिबेट कर रहा हूं. और ये इंपॉर्टेंट था कि जो भी टीम ने पार्टिसिपेट किया, मैडम आपकी टीम कितना बजे कंप्लीट हुई, तैयार हुई? जस्ट 2 दिन पहले, राइट? कल. And do you later on, now when such a beautiful debate takes place, you felt that should have been prepared for 10 days before? जरा जोर से. And same way for आपकी टीम, उसमें कितने दिन पहले लास्ट तैयार हुआ फुल टीम? कल. आप लोग ब्रिलियंट हो मैडम. 1 दिन पहले आपको केस दिया गया है, ब्रीफ होके तैयार होके ऐसे ही प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. जरा पढ़ाई करके गया, पुराने केस फाइल्स देखे ठीक से, तो यार ये डिबेट अलग ही बन सकता था. We would not have talked only of reform, we would have said steps of reform, changes in leadership, and you are leader, you are future teacher. अब्दुल कलाम बोल रहे हैं कि मेरी लाइफ बनाई मेरे टीचर ने. छोटे से गांव में, खेड़ेपाड़ा के गांव में से एक रॉकेट इंजीनियर बनता है, और उसका एक टीचर है, उसको याद करके बोलता है कि दैट टीचर, एंड उसको पूछा इंटरव्यू में आपको क्या बनना है लाइफ में, तो बोलता है टीचर बनना है. प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया सेज आई वांट टू बी टीचर. and you are future teacher. Reforms are not going to come on paper. There is a vehicle which brings reform. Are you vehicle? Are you bridging the gap? Are you traveling from your city to the tribals? Are you sitting with them? Or we are sitting from here? Someone should go in village and bring the change. Or we sit there. We be with them. And I am going to bring change. राजेश सर बैठते तो मेंटल हेल्थ देखा ना एक छोटे से आंगनवाड़ी में और रियलिटी टेस्ट समझ में आ गई कि मेंटल हेल्थ हम सिटी में बोलते हैं, एक फ्लैट में रहने वाले से बात करते हैं और एक गांव में बात करते हैं, आसमान जमीन का फर्क. So who are these change agents? And Gandhi talked about that change agent starts with you. So if we could have prepared still more, guided by your teacher with more timing, you could have brought far more potential. Means you are brilliant to me. मेरे में भी इतनी ताकत नहीं कि एक दिन में इतना तैयारी करूं. But ये ताकत potential unrealized. बाकी के 4 लोग आए. Thank you for coming here and showing your glimpses. भर जाना चाहिए. कंपटीशन ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि 4 किसको सिलेक्ट करें तभी जाके आगे आएगा. Sorry, I'm taking little more time, but कुछ जल गया इसलिए बोल दिया. Thank you very much. But sir ना बोलेगे, but I want sir to say. मुझे नहीं बोलना था, वो मुझे पकड़ के. Sir, आपके बिना closing ceremony हो ही नहीं सकता. The wisdom which has the topic, selections and experience, because we are his vehicle.
Thank you all the participants for such a good treat. You see, it has been always our intention that our students should be citizens of the world. We should not be confined to our small Palghar or our small world in which we live in our families. Because the world is becoming a more and more complex and more difficult place, and especially with AI, it is becoming an almost impossible place. And that is why the 2 things that I think Devangini brought about: equity among people, equity among nations, equity among the global north and the global south. I think this is what is coming up in a very big way. And the voice of the unheard. These voices are becoming increasingly difficult to hear, difficult to put across. Because you must always understand that the powers that be are always strong. And they use all sorts of machineries to try to get across their point of view. And therefore a critical voice becomes essential if you have to have a stand and make your views heard. Madam has given a very good caution, and that caution comes necessarily from her professional background, because the legal profession, for all said and done, is by far and large a profession which moves slowly. Social reform does not take that slowness into account. Social reform is demanding. So we need to keep abreast all this LGDP, all this has a social movement. The RTI has a social. All these things have come into force because social movements have come. And that is why whoever you are, professionals are gifted because professionals are already having a lot of background by which they are able to put forward their point. And that is why we always believe that students from our institution should be able to utilize whatever opportunities that we create in order to keep abreast. I'm very sure that nowadays newspapers are not being read, but you have your cells. But what comes in your cells, you have to evaluate. And for that, you require to develop your critical thinking. See, it is good to research. You have done a huge amount of research. But it is equally important to be able to know what of that research to use and how. So, and if you want to get across, don't read. Reading does not get across. You can be a powerful communicator. And for that, you don't require go on. You write your speech, but keep the points in your mind. Then there is always a method that you have to take cards. Use cards in order to be able to refresh yourself. You don't have to be extempore like somebody was. But then what happens with the extempore is that then you lose steam. And then you give up in between. You had time. The one who was using extempore had time, but it was not used. It could have been used with much more effectiveness. So I think that it has been a very, very eye-opening debate. And we wish that, the teachers should take care to see that you frame the topic properly. One of the problems that happened in this debate was the framing was important. So both the teachers actually should sit together, and find out what are the contours of the pros and the cons, and then try to inform and try to guide the students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. They say that a good leader doesn't simply tell us where to go. They inspire us to become better versions of ourselves. And we are fortunate to have the guidance of someone who continuously motivates us throughout our academic journey. It is now my privilege to invite our respected Vice Principal, Dr. Sachin Junagade, sir, to address the gathering and share his valuable thoughts with us.
I think the ceremony has been, ending ceremony has been done after Kumar's speech. I don't think anything has been remained to speak anything about the speech and all. But would like to thank everybody. And the last session or something, one of the session, I just appealed everybody to please take the opportunity and express yourself whenever this institute is allowing you or giving you the platform. And that's very important for your journey. And things like this, not only what everybody has talked about all these things, the reforms comes within from within. So I'm expecting this institute is providing the platform at each and every occasion which is possible. I am appealing again and again to all the residents to please take up this opportunity and participate and express your views whenever it is possible. Thank you.
Before we conclude, I would like to leave you all with a thought Independence Day is not only about remembering how we got our freedom, it is also about asking ourselves, what are we going to do with that freedom? Let us use our freedom to learn, to question, to grow, to help one another, and to make our country a little better than we found it. Because देशभक्ति सिर्फ तिरंगा लहराने में नहीं, बल्कि अपने हिस्से की जिम्मेदारी निभाने में है. जय हिंद. Now I call upon Akshana ma'am to extend the vote of thanks.
Any event is incomplete without a vote of thanks. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the audience, the wonderful audience who has gathered here to support and cheer their teams. My sincere gratitude to Kumar sir for helping right from the preparation of the draft till the execution of it. I extend my gratitude to esteemed judges to take their time out of their busy schedule and share their insights. I thank all the energetic participants and their guides, Dr. Namrata and Dr. Avni. I thank Dr. Dubey for wonderfully coordinating this event. My cultural members, student cultural members for arranging every single detail and the decorations. I thank Mr. Bhushan and Mr. Rakesh for technical support and the canteen committee for arranging the breakfast. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
चला आता lunch time झाला.